This is K-Rockcast, the podcast where music and perspectives collide.
I'm Anne, a music lover who's the ultimate fan.
And I'm Kelly, a professional musician. Join us as we dive into the world of the Rose and other Korean and Asian rock bands.
Sometimes we'll agree, sometimes we'll wildly disagree, but what's guaranteed is a passionate, hilarious, and unfiltered conversation about the music that unites us and the bands that inspire us. Hi, everybody. We are back in our regular episode. This is episode 10 called Into the Catalyst. And so, in our deep dive, we're excited because we have our second interview guest. Can you imagine? I just said that, Kelly. Second
I know.
interview guest.
Second.
Look at us.
I know.
We are excited to start a new spotlight. This is called Geniuses Behind the Scenes. And this is really all, Kelly, your wonderful idea to kind of highlight a lot of the different jobs and professions in the music industry that are more behind the scenes that I think people like me that are the fan have no idea about. And our first spotlight this series is a mixing engineer named JJ Catalyst that you have worked with your band Spectral. So we are going to talk a little bit about him here in a moment and go into our interview. But before we do that, we're going to go into our hot take segment. And so Black Roses, we got released on April 8th. The track list for the Rose's new upcoming EP, World. Well, Kelly, like we said, we know the fucking Rose so well. We called that this would be an EP, and we said there would be 6 tracks. We came out with 7 tracks, so I think we got this one right.
Yeah, I mean, seven's a bit of a stretching of the ideology of an EP. But it has been called an EP in the press release as well.
Yes. So kudos to us again. And so we're gonna take some time because fans, I think, were super excited to see now the names of these songs. And in the live stream that Sammy did on March 27th, he gave us 5 of these 7 as like teasers.
I'm not 100% sure it is 5. I think one of those tracks might be a track and then another bit of it a bit later on.
You said that, but I think they were separate.
It could be. I think one of it's a bit of a noodle in the same song a bit further on.
All right. Well, I
might be very wrong with that. I just get that slight spider sense.
It's your tingliness going off.
My tingliness. Can we not talk about tingliness?
Well, I thought it'd be kind of fun to go through the names, but then maybe make a prediction on which song sample we think it aligns to, and then we can see if we were right or wrong. We also, listeners, got an image that I think we kind of want to break down a little bit and have some theories on what this image might mean in terms of maybe like the concept photos or what have you. So let's start first with the track names, Kelly. Do you want to go through and name the different tracks for us?
Yeah, of course. So the first track, which is actually shown in Korean, but the translation into English is Breath.
Yeah.
Track 2 is Nebula, and track 3 is O. Track 4 is Tomorrow. Track 5 is Nevermind. Track 6 is Slowly, and track 7 is Ticket to the Sky.
Yeah. So we already know track 4, Tomorrow, is the first snippet that Sammy played. Because he's told us that one, it was track 4, and then he told us that it was the name Tomorrow. So we at least know that one.
I don't think he intentionally told us. It was just the fact he had to ask whoever else was stood behind him.
Yeah.
Which fucking track it was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's Tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Exactly. Now, the first track is a Korean word, sum, which means breath or breathe. I'm super excited about this, Kelly, because I'm guessing that since the title of the track is in Korean, this will be mostly a Korean song. We have not had a Korean track from the Rose since the Heel album.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
I know. know.
Do you think it's all gonna be in Korean?
I
Or do
bet
you
a ma
think we're gonna have that little bit of hodgepodge that they tend to do?
Yeah, they definitely could have, like, literally, this is the only word in the entire song that's in Korean. They
Yeah.
could do that because they have done that with other songs, but I don't
Previously,
know.
yeah.
In my gut, I think this is a Korean song.
Yeah, I think it is, and that'd be really nice. I mean, at the end of the day, back in Korea, and they've had a chance to breathe. I mean, to
Yeah,
me, it makes sense. So it
yeah.
is like the pause before the start.
Right, right. So in what we heard, do you have any thoughts on which of the other sounds maybe could match that?
I don't, because
I
I mean,
don't
in
really
my
either.
head, the title alludes to something that's more sort of like, I don't want to say the term intro music, but we know the guys tend to like intro music. They've always done it.
Yeah.
They've always had something that's there that's got this level of sort of opulence and cinematicness.
You know what? You're right, and we had that on both Heel and Duel, but
Yeah.
they weren't named well, no, I'm sorry, Duel
No,
was,
yeah, Duel was, yeah.
Dusk and Dawn. So maybe this is just an intro track, but they decided to put the name of it in Korean, and it'll be more of an instrumental, not
Yeah,
could be.
possibly. I mean, they do tend to do that, which would then make me feel better because I've gone, there's 6 tracks.
You know what? I
I've gone,
know,
yes, there's 6 tracks. I was
I
right.
know. It would match our 6-track
Yeah,
prediction
there we
even
go.
more. But I
Yeah,
will be
exactly.
a little disappointed if it's I think I do, I crave a Korean lyric song from them. I just haven't had it in a while, and
Yeah.
I don't know, I kinda crave that, so we'll see. We'll see what comes of it.
I mean, you're saying that, but I mean, there could be Korean lyrics in the other tracks.
There could be. There could be. So, one of the things I didn't say at the beginning that I think is important for us to call out because, again, this is something we were right about. We said this, we predicted this. They did share with us on the poster that for every one of these songs, oh no, I'm looking. Number one actually says lyrics. So that means it does, Soom does have
Oh, so it
lyrics.
does have lyrics, yeah.
Yeah, but lyrics by the Rose, composed by the Rose, arranged by the Rose. I think it was purposeful that they put that on this poster to show us this is all them on this album.
Oh, yeah.
You know, that there's no other outside producer, I think, coming in working on these songs. I think as you and I
Yeah,
predicted,
they've got no co-writers on this. They've got no
no featured
script.
artist.
Yeah, there's no script doctors. As silly as that sounds, that you get like in the film industry.
Mhm.
So yeah, and it sounds like it is purely the guys back to their roots doing what they do. And yeah, and I think the mass majority of production for this has also been done in house. I think our little keyboard guitarist extraordinaire has very much done the production on this.
Oh, yeah, I think the production has been all Dojun. I think, again,
I
this is
think it
why
has.
listeners, we've felt like this is why they've been heads down because they've done
Mm,
all of this themselves.
I think they have.
So the second track you mentioned is Nebula.
Right. So can I just point out the nebulas? We'd just come out of Yumi at 6 and we were sat having a coffee and the photograph came out and it was from Hajun and he'd posted a still from Guardians of the Galaxy. And
Mm.
Ava turned around to me and she went, "What the hell is that?" And I went, "It's Guardians of the Galaxy. Come on, it's Marvel. How do you not know
Ooh.
this?" And the problem is, I then went, in my absolute stupidity, "How do you not know this Easter egg?" Completely forgetting the fact that, June had literally just dropped us the biggest fucking Easter egg in the world because the person that is actually levitating in that scene, sorry, I'm outing myself as a Marvel nerd here, aren't I?
Oh, I love Marvel. I'm with you on this.
Oh,
Nerd
cool.
out,
That's fine
girl.
then. So anyway, it's Nebula basically that's there
Yeah.
with Gamora sort of staring her on and basically trying to work out why her sister was the way that she is, but obviously it's because Thanos pulls her to pieces.
There's
Okay, I'm
our
going down a rabbit
Hadrony.
hole. But take me away, move me away from
Hadrony
this.
coming in with giving us all these amazing spoilers these last 4 months.
Yeah, exactly. And there's another one, and he just went.
I know. I think I love this. Here we go with, like, there's Ticket to the Sky, track 7, right? Nebula, track
Hmm.
2, this whole concept. We know Sammy loves the concept of stars and space and
Yeah,
all of that. And so when I heard Nebula, I my
but one of
prediction is this is the
go on then.
Dojun song where Dojun
The
is
countings, yeah,
yes. Counting
yeah.
stars, I close my eyes.
Yeah, I think it probably is as well. To be perfectly honest, I think, or it could be Ticket to the Sky.
No, my gut, I'm calling it. I'm gonna call
You think
it,
it's
so I will say
Nebula?
if I'm right or wrong. My gut tells me this is Nebula,
Yeah, I think you're probably right. To be
and
honest,
I still
it's
feel
got,
like it is going to be my favorite song on this whole album.
yeah, and it still
I'm
reminds me of you
already
too.
tingling, and I don't wanna go back to where I was in the Spoiler King episode because
Yeah, let's not go there. Let's stay in the moment. Come
I
back to
know,
me.
I think
Come back to
I
me.
in that episode, I think I groaned, like, 2 different times.
You did. You groaned, and it was like a moment. I was thinking, when the fuck did this turn into When Harry Met Sally? Was the sandwich that good?
Oh my god, I know, I think I groaned 2 different times where I was like, "What is happening,
It's
Anne?
like,
What are you
what are
doing?"
you doing?
I just couldn't help it, it just came out. Okay, but
Yeah,
that's what I
yeah,
think
no, yeah.
Nebula is.
Yeah, I think you're right there.
Now, he did not tell us the name of the title track, nor did they actually say in this poster or even in their marketing campaign. So we don't officially know the name of the title track, but do you assume it's the O because the O is the missing O in world?
I think that's what it is. Yeah, I
Okay.
honestly do. Yeah, I think O is the part that's missing from the world.
Yeah. And so let's talk that through. The part that's missing from the world is O. Do you think it's going to mean O? What does O symbolize? A circle, community,
Yeah,
completeness. What are they saying is
yeah.
missing from the world?
Empathy, hope,
Empathy,
love,
love.
everything. Just
Mhm.
everything's missing from the fucking world at the moment, isn't it, to be
Right,
perfectly
right.
honest?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, come on, people. We're all the same. Just get over yourself and just realize that we're all insignificant little specks in space, but we're so
Yeah.
special that we need to look after each other.
Yeah,
Rant over.
I think that's an interesting perspective, Kelly. I feel like knowing how Sammy writes lyrics and like how he views things like that, I could see him writing a song with that kind of message.
I think so. And you
Mhm.
know what? If he writes a song with what I would class as a bigger message, because a lot of the time the messages are quite internals. The
Mhm.
messages of self and self-reflection,
Mhm.
and the messages that you'd kind of you'd say to a friend, and it's just like, well, I've been through this, and
Mhm.
this would help you, and it's kind of like a
Mhm.
message of hope. Whereas I think potentially some of these tracks, and I mean, I have my theories on this, and I kind of feel like there's this, it's not protest music. Protest music's the wrong word, but there's this sort of ideology of unity
Mhm.
and, for God's sake, we've got to get our shit together as a world.
Right. I like what you're saying. I think agree with you. I think the theme of this album is going to be where Heal, like you're saying, was an
Mm.
internal, it was the fans' personal struggles that they turned into
Oh God,
universal
yeah,
songs, and their own
yeah.
personal struggles that they turned into universal songs. This, they're taking the struggles of society, they're taking the struggles
I
of
think
what's
so.
happening in the world, and they're turning it into universal songs.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
there's too much that's happened recently
Mhm.
that can't be ignored. I mean, if you've got a heart, you've got a
Right.
soul, you've got a level of empathy for anybody else, let alone greater humanity. I mean, you've got to be moved by what's happening.
Right, right. So yeah, I think I like our theories on kind of O is what's missing from the world, and then it'll be centered around things like love, empathy, community,
Yeah,
coming together,
yeah.
circle, that kind of yeah. I love that. And then track 4 is tomorrow, so as we mentioned, he did play that for us, and we know that the theme of that is definitely about the state of the world,
That is the
right?
state of the world address. That definitely is. And
Yeah.
obviously, I have slight feelings as to where this song may have had some form of inspiration. I could be very, 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 very wrong, but I can clearly see the flag waving on this one.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Okay, so now we have 3 more, and we have to pick from the one that is the blues guitar track, the one that is more sounding like Oasis, and then the potential acoustic one that you think could be another form of Tomorrow. I think it's a separate song.
I would have thought Never Mind is possibly the one that's got that slight Oasis feel to it.
Yeah, because didn't that one have a lyric that it was like, "I don't care what you say," or something like that?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And we just got that snippet clip before it went
We just
off.
got that snippet, and so I'm with you. I'm thinking Nevermind is the Oasis sounding one. So now we're down to the blues track.
Which I
Slowly
think
or Ticket to the
slowly.
Sky?
Right, actually, do you know what? Oh, for God's sake. Oh, now I would have automatically gut feeling would be that's possibly slowly,
Mhm.
but saying that it could be Ticket to the Sky because Ticket. So if anybody listens to Jimi Hendrix,
Mm.
so Jimmy wrote lots of really beautiful blues licks, and obviously there's lots of reference to sky in Jimi
Mm.
Hendrix tracks. So it could be either. I mean, gut is probably slowly, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
I think that's what
so
I'm gonna go with.
yeah,
Alright, so we're gonna say Slowly is our blues guitar that one made me groan, and then you
yeah,
you
and I
gushed, like, for,
gushed.
like,
I
10 minutes.
literally gushed easily for 10 minutes. Yeah. Mm. It's not very often Kelly does that, is it?
I know, it creeped me out a little bit. I was like, "We need to move on. This is creeping me
I
out."
love the fact I can creep you out by just going, "Oh my God, I love this so much." I do. I love that piece of guitar.
I
It
know, I was like, "We've
is
gotta
I'm
move on.
starting
I'm getting
again. I'm
creeped
starting
out
again.
here."
Move me on. Move me on. Move
And
me
then
on.
I'm
Move me
over
on.
here
Move
just
me.
going, "Ugh."
Yeah, okay, let's not go there.
Yeah, let's not go back there. Alright, so
This
then
this
that
this
leaves
this
Ticket
could
to the
this could then
Sky.
be the sus content. This is all I'm gonna say.
Suscon we're gonna be
Making those sounds could be the sus content.
sus content. Oh
My
god.
foul mouth and your groaning.
Groaning.
Let's call it that.
Oh, leave that there.
Groaning. Groaning.
Mm. Alright, Ticket to the Sky is probably then maybe that last, like, acoustic one. Alright, well, we'll see how close
Yeah.
we are, listeners. So let's kind of finish up, Kelly, which is kinda take picking apart some of the imagery in this picture they showed us. Listeners have prominent there's a shirt that is a striped
I
button
what,
down.
what you're saying it's a shirt. You think it's like a dicky shirt. They look like bloody pajamas to me.
Yeah, you think it's a pajama top. I think it's like a Dickies from like 2000s, like late 90s fashion. It
I
has
mean,
the
possibly, but I mean, I look at it and I literally think Paddington Bear. They look like Paddington Bear pajamas.
but it definitely has the rose sewn in image,
It
their
does. It has
logo
a
in the back.
rose
So we're
label.
thinking
Yeah.
maybe it's future merch. Like maybe they'll be selling this
Yeah,
as merch.
possibly. I mean, they wouldn't be the first band to sell pajamas.
Yeah. We also have a cap, like a baseball cap, and it's interesting, it has the names of all 7 songs, but then some other imagery added to it. So Zoom is in a do not red symbol with like the circle
Yeah.
around it with the red line, kind of meaning like do not breathe.
Yeah.
Then slowly is a yellow squiggly mark, almost like you're like scraping it out, kind of, or striking through it. Tomorrow has a strike through. So it's kind of like striking tomorrow, ending tomorrow. Tomorrow ends.
Yeah.
There'll be
Tomorrow
no
ends. Yeah.
tomorrow.
No, tomorrow. It's the end of the world as we know it.
And then Ticket
And
to the
and now
Sky.
I've got REM in my head.
Yeah. Ticket to the Sky has a I don't quite know what that is. It's like a blue mark going through it, but I'm not sure what it represents. Do you?
I mean, it's just a squiggle, isn't it? I don't know.
So it looks
It's
like
just a
maybe some of
squiggle.
it could be circled. It's not necessarily like with slowly where it's completely being squiggled out. I don't quite know what
Yeah.
that means. But the only words that aren't impacted are never mind, nebula, and oh, which is
Yeah.
interesting. So it must mean something.
Again, are we giving them too much credit?
Do give them too much credit sometimes when I think about the photosynthesis. I thought there was so much more
It's
to
just
that.
random.
Too deep? I don't know. They are dudes. They are simple. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. It's kind of, I don't know. It's kind of weird. So, I mean, that looks like it's potential merch. Obviously, on there as well, we've got the box of markers, and there's also crayons on there, which Sammy picked up during the live anyway when he
mhm,
asked whether or not he could show the artwork.
mhm.
And whoever it was said, nope. And it was like, oh, well, I'm just going to pick this up to insinuate that the artwork has actually been created in house, which I'm
Mhm.
100% sure it has.
Yeah, we both
I think
think that
Hajoons
Hajuni did
has,
the artwork.
yeah, I think he's done the artwork for it.
Mhm.
We've got lots of stars drawn onto the table as well, the
Mhm.
surface. I'm slightly concerned by all the paper roses because it does look like a teenage boy's bedroom. Um, oh, come on, it does. Jesus, this is terrible.
Oh, Lord.
And then the obligatory roll of masking tape, which makes it look even worse.
Yeah.
It's like, hold
I
on a
think all
minute.
these, like, weird supplies I mean, their aesthetic with what they've come out with so far is, like this is kinda digging into, like, the childlike. It's, like, the hand-drawn with chalk, kind of an imagery of stars. I forget what some
I'm
of the other
trying to work.
imagery.
I'm trying to work out what's underneath the cap because that kind of looks like an old NES controller,
Yeah, it
the black and
does,
white
it
bit.
does. Everything in this image, like, the coloring is very vintage, coming out like
Yeah, it's had a
what a
wash
photo
over
when you
it.
took a photograph back in the day, Kelly, I'm gonna date both of us here. Um, when you took a photograph not on your phone, but with the disposable camera and
With
had
an
to wait
actual
for it to
camera.
develop. Remember those days?
And then you get your actual film back, and it was just like photograph of the back of somebody's head,
Yep,
unusable, unusable,
unusable.
unusable, unusable.
Mhm. Like, "Oh, fuck, out of 24 pictures, there's only 2 good ones."
Yeah,
But this
yeah, and even they're
coloring makes me
blurry.
think of that time. Like, I do think everything's kind of you think of even the guys at Rabbit to the Moon, Roy styled them with, like, 90s
Oh, it
styles.
was
I
nine.
feel like
It was nine. Yeah, it was 90s grunge. It really was. But then again, at the moment, everything's 90s. So
yeah,
I'm not surprised by
I kind
that,
of
to be
feel like
honest.
that's what it makes me think. And then we have an image at the bottom that's the top of the rose star light stick. I know I keep saying this, but I said this about the light stick and I felt it when I see this image. Masculine. This image
Yeah, it is.
appeals to men, not just women. Like if this is a merch item, the hat very more masculine to me. And
Yeah,
I
but
I
he's. I
think
mean,
and I'm
to be
not saying that as
perfectly
a negative
honest,
thing. I'm not trying to say
no,
that as
that's
I think that's a negative thing. I think it's completely smart. I think they need to be broadening their audience and not only appealing
yeah.
to
Oh
women
God, yeah,
fans.
definitely.
But
Um,
yeah.
I no, I completely and utterly agree with you, but I don't necessarily think. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, they have the sort of like quirky, kawaii sort of shit that they sell in their merch, the sort of teddy bears and all of that type of stuff. And I mean it's all very much sort of K-poppy type stuff. But I think their actual genuine merch, like the t-shirts, the hoodies and things like that, I think they're quite unisex anyway.
Yes, they are. They are. But, like,
I, d- I
if this is a shirt and not pajamas, right? Like, maybe more
Pajamas.
women, but I don't see a woman wearing this
I'd
as
wear the
much,
bottoms.
right? Like, I don't know. I mean, like I said, I maybe it is pajamas. Maybe it's not going to be like a shirt they'll sell, but
It's
I
Jim
do think
Jams.
another interesting detail is it's kind of on the pocket and it just says, "We go
We
as
go
one."
as one. Yeah.
Ooh, what do we think that means?
I think that's it. I think it is. We go as one. I mean, they are a band. They're a band of brothers, but I don't just think it's that. I think it's the whole Rose, Black Roses. I think it is as one unity, and it possibly ties back into O.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
Um,
this is like a callback. They always talk about their fans and that that's a journey we're going on with them through the music. And so, yeah, I
mm.
think this is like we go as one in terms of moving forward with
What's
their fans.
what's the sticker in the background? So there's a sticker in the background
The
that's got
blue and
Korean on
white
it,
image.
blue and white. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't quite make out all the characters enough to know
No, I can't either.
what it
I,
says. And it almost looks like maybe it's definitely not sitting at the right angle because that's not like the top character, it's not a letter, like, it's not a character.
no,
So,
exactly. It
it's
kind of
hard to
reminds me of the
tell.
old Carhartt stickers.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
got that sort of thing about it.
Well, the next big event that we really have other than photosynthesis coming out at this point will be the album reveal and pre-sale starting on May 6th. So, I'll be
Wow,
excited to
that
kinda see the
that's not
album, see the
long.
cover art, all of that.
Yeah.
All right, Kelly, why don't you take us into a band recommendation? I feel like we haven't had a band recommendation in a little bit, so I'm excited for you to share about this band.
Well, no, because people keep bringing news out, and I keep having to have my section bumped.
I know,
How
we
rude!
had so much
How
to talk about with
dare
the
they?
rose, right?
How dare they having to do like special podcasts and
I
all this, that, and the
know.
other shit, and then I'm having to bump my section.
You know
How
what we
rude!
were
I'm
laughing
so
about?
sick of this.
Listeners, we have to tell the listeners this, Kelly, because Kelly and I, listeners, were so excited about our interview with Francis Doom. We were so fucking excited about that. And then the day we dropped that interview, Sammy has to go on live, and then the Rose drops
It's
their
all but he
comeback
knew.
schedule.
He knew. He was like, no, 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 you are not allowed to use my platform to
We
discuss
were laughing
anybody else. It's
we
like, come
were
on,
laughing
dude,
about
seriously.
that because we're like, "Did he know?" Like, just kidding. No, we don't think that he did that on purpose, of
I'm
course.
not
Like, god damn it, why did he have to compete with our dropping of our episode?
so rude.
I know, it
How
was so
dare
rude of
he?
him.
So rude.
But
Absolutely
yes,
abhorrent
we
behavior.
we unfortunately have had to kind of bump your band recommendations, but I'm excited for you to share this new band.
Yeah, so I'm going to introduce you to a band called Cave. And Cave are absolutely goddamn wonderful, and I am ever so slightly in love with them. They're a five-piece rock band from Korea, and they're under Planetarium Records. And they're a bit of a weird fusion, a mix of musicians and producers. So these guys, you can tell just by listening to them what they do and what they've been doing. They have created songs, written songs, and been session musicians on some huge tracks. I mean, we're talking huge K-pop acts here. I'm not going to drop names, but you can
Mm.
find this information out for yourself as to who they've worked for. And what they did was they decided instead of writing for other people, why not write for ourselves? And they formed Cave. Now, they have this really gorgeous blend of pop, rock, and electronic.
Mm.
It's got this really nice groove to it. And you know, I am a sucker for a bass line.
You
These
are.
guys, oh, well, I mean, yeah, I'm. These guys literally have literally like baseline grooves in bucket loads. It really is like just beautiful. It makes you want to shake things. That's all I'm saying. So cave stands for kings always have veiled egos. I kind of think that might be a veiled reference to some of the people that they've worked for in the past.
I know, that's so interesting, especially if you said, like, there's some huge, K-pop groups. Now I wanna
Huge
go
artists
research
in
that.
there.
Listeners, you're gonna have to research
Yeah,
who they've worked
exactly.
with.
So the group is made up of singer-songwriter Gaeho, and there is Kinku on drums, Jin Sang on guitar, Hyun on keys, and Owner, which is OWNR, and he's on keys and decks. So this has got that sort of Linkin Park thing going on with the
Mm,
dynamic of the band with throwing the decks in there as well.
that's cool.
Um, yeah, and I mean, they're just their level of musicianship. I mean, even so, because of how they've written for people in the past, they know how to write a pop track. And
Yeah.
by God, it's so good. And then at the other end of it, they also know how to play their instruments, and the instrumentation is just, oh, it's to die for. It's so, so good. They debuted in July 2024 with an EP called Flight of Ideas, and
Mm.
they followed it up with another EP in November of the same year called Say My Name.
That's really
And
quick. 2
yeah,
EPs
yeah,
right
but I
back to
mean,
back.
these guys do it for a living, and I think if I remember correctly, I think there's something coming out this autumn.
Oh, wow.
I think there's some. If I remember correctly, I can't remember the exact time, but I believe there's another EP, if not the first album, coming out this autumn.
Yeah.
But
You'll have
I'll
to
have to
check them
check that and then
out.
let everybody know. I love them. Literally, their last single has been on
Mm,
repeat over and over again.
I love it.
Um, yeah, honestly, fantastic. Great band. So check out Cave. I think people will love them.
Well, I'm gonna give a shout out. I will probably put this out on our Instagram account again, but we have started a Spotify playlist, listeners, of a lot of the collection of songs from the various artists that Kelly recommends. And you have songs from Cave on that
I
playlist, right,
do,
Kelly?
yeah. I put their
Yeah.
last single on there, yeah.
Yeah. So
So yeah,
listeners, you gotta check out that playlist. It's kind of a great way to get introduced to a lot of these other artists.
yeah, I like to sneak little things on there just to challenge people's minds and expand them. But do you know what? There are some amazing artists out there, and these guys are
Yeah.
definitely one to listen to. They're really good.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Kelly. Let's jump into our deep dive. So, before we go into our interview with JJ Catalyst, let's give a little bit of background on JJ. Why don't you kind of go through some of his background and work?
So we get to introduce you to JJ Catalyst, who is one of the nicest men I have ever met in my life. He is an absolute delight. So JJ is a professional mix engineer, and he has credits on Disney, Hollywood Records, Prescription, 3V, Freeform, Showtime, and several new Music Friday releases as well. Now, obviously, I'm going to give you a little rundown of just how good he is. So, he's Emmy nominated, World Entertainment Award, Hollywood Music in Media Award winning, and just add a little bit more, a Billboard #1 mixer as well. So, his list of artists include Papa Roach, you may have heard of them, Hollywood Undead, Mothica, Connor Matthews, Shailene, and then this strange band from Korea that I don't think anybody's heard of called The Rose.
The Rose?
Um,
I've never heard of
I don't know
them.
who they are. No,
Hmm.
I've never heard of them. I think we have to check them out. I might add
Yeah, we
those
might
to
have
the
to
sort
check
of
them
like new
out.
artists to check out. Yeah,
You know
definitely.
what,
Never heard of
Kelly?
them.
It's so funny you say the rose. I feel like I saw the other day, there's a podcast all about the rose. I heard it's #1 on Spotify.
Oh yeah, I saw that as well. Yeah, they have this like really cool logo and everything. Yeah, I think I
We'll have
heard
to give
about
them a
them as
try.
well. Yeah, I think we'll need to give those a listen. Yeah, definitely.
So
So
yeah. It's so fun to see that he had credits with The Rose. So listeners,
Yeah.
he is credited on the dual album. There are 5 of the 11 tracks that he was the mix engineer. You're Beautiful, Lifeline, Eclipse, Alive, and Wonder, which we both said, Kelly, these are some of our favorite
They're
tracks
my
from
favorite
Duel.
tracks. Yeah, they are. I mean, oh, for God's sake, I mean, the man did Alive, Lifeline, and You're Beautiful, which are quite literally my 3 favorite tracks on that entire album. And I mean,
You're
Eclipse and Wonder
Beautiful.
come in closely afterwards. I mean,
You're
just the
Beautiful
level
is
of
yeah.
sound on those tracks are just magnificent and
Yeah.
beautiful, and I can't sing his praises highly enough for the work that he's done on that.
Yeah, and I'm so excited. So, in this interview, listeners, we talk a little bit about The Rose, but it's really focused on his experience as a mixing engineer, what it means to be a mixing engineer, and just his craft. He will come back when we do our deep dive for the Dual album and talk in depth about the songs that he worked on. It was so fun to get to sit down and talk with him. And so, listeners, we'll go into that next, and we hope you enjoy it. Hi, everybody. Today, we have an interview with Emmy-nominated Billboard #1 mixing engineer, JJ Catalyst. JJ has worked with incredible artists like Papa Roach, Hollywood Undead, Connor Matthews, and our very own The Rose, just to name a few. Welcome to the podcast, JJ.
Thank you for having me. What a lovely introduction.
Wow. I mean, we're excited to have you on our very humble podcast. I want to maybe to have Kelly kind of tell how the story of how this happened. Kelly, do you want to kind of tell our listeners how we got JJ on the podcast?
Yeah, so I'd like to introduce you to my friend JJ Catalyst, who is currently mixing and producing my EP. So this is how I got to learn all about the wonderful world that JJ inhabits and everything that he does. And obviously, let's just put it this way, he's like one of the coolest dudes I actually know. And the owner of
No.
the greatest mustache in the world, other than the Lorax.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to do a little costume for Halloween. I'll be the Lorax.
I would love that.
I'm going to
Love
say it'll be
that.
so good. But yeah, I mean, honestly, it's been an absolute pleasure working with JJ. And I mean, he copes with us, and we're a bunch of British nutters. So what do you expect? We're not the easiest people to work with.
Oh my God. If only you knew.
I love that. I can't, come on. I mean, I'm not going to throw somebody under the bus here, but somebody called Fletch is a bit of a perfectionist. Just a
No,
smidgy bit.
yeah, I mean, he's particular about what he wants, but he knows what he wants. So
He
it's,
does. That
I'm
is
certainly
true.
not complaining about it. Yeah.
Oh,
No,
that's probably half the
yeah,
battle in working with artists.
yeah,
Well, JJ,
definitely.
like we said, welcome to the podcast. We're so excited to have you. This is kind of a new series we're starting. I think Kelly, you named it "Geniuses Behind the Scenes,"
Mm.
because I think a lot of our listeners may not know a lot about all the behind the scenes work that goes into creating the amazing music that we hear as fans in
Yeah.
our ears. And you're one of those geniuses who works tirelessly behind the scenes. And so I think it will be a really exciting opportunity to tell our listeners more about, what goes into making the music and mixing the music and kind of
Mhm.
putting those final touches on it. But why don't you first just tell our listeners a little bit about you and your background?
Sure. So, hi, I'm JJ. I am currently in Los Angeles, California. I've been here for about 5 years now. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, and just had a lot of different musical background there. The metal scene is huge over there. I grew up going to hardcore metal shows, playing in hardcore metal bands, but also was in show choir in high school and also ran sound for musical theater and choir programs and collegiate a cappella groups for I think like 12 years before I ended up moving here. And when I moved here, decided to specialize in just mixing. And yeah, here we are. I don't know. That's the short of the story.
I love it. No, I love it. And I think that leads into For me, in our relationship, JJ, between
Hmm.
Kelly and I, right? She's the professional musician and she adds all of this knowledge and depth. I'm the fan, and I still am
Hmm.
not sure what I add to my relationship with Kelly, but I will admit, I don't know much about what it means to be like a mixing engineer. So
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of our listeners don't understand that either. How would you explain your job to someone who isn't, a professional musician or familiar with the music industry?
I guess like analogy or allegory, whichever it is that I tend to use, and maybe other people would disagree with how I break down these sections, but the way I like to do it is, let's pretend we're building a cake here, and you would go to a producer, and you as the artist would find all of the ingredients. You'd need the flour, butter, whatever, sugar, whatever it is that goes into cake. And once you have all of those ingredients, you would send it to the mixer, who would put all of the ingredients together and make them work together, instead of, here's all of them. It's like measuring them out, I guess, would do it. And then mastering would be like the frosting on top of it. um,
Mm,
and I guess for a more direct thing, as mixing, we get all of the elements in, and we're trying to just fit them together like a puzzle. You need to create more space from the vocal, because maybe the vocal is competing with the guitar.
mm,
A lot of instruments share the same part of the frequency spectrum. So you're just kind of massaging things into place. And sometimes that job is very straightforward. People have a very clear vision of where they want to go. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's, we don't know where we want this to go. And you can kind of
mm,
almost make it uh, change genres by how you would
mm.
approach mixing it.
Do you prefer
That's,
kind of one method? Like, do you prefer the artist that gives you full autonomy, or do you kind of like when they've got their own vision and all you have to do is just execute on it?
yeah, it really depends. The way that I started my career was, I was recording the bands and then mixing the bands and then mastering the
Mm,
bands. And it wasn't until I was here that I was really only doing one step of the process. So I was
mm,
very used to doing and having a lot of say in how things went, or having more room to kind of change how things were before it was done. And I guess it just kind of goes in phases, like
mm,
sometimes one week I'll get a lot of things where they're like, we don't want it to change at all. We have a very clear vision. We just want it cleaner or
mhm,
to hit harder. And other times they're like, you know what, just kind of go for it. And I don't know if I have a preference anymore.
mm.
Maybe I did it at one point, but now it's just like, that's just the job.
It's nice then that you now have a balance, right? Because maybe if you
Mm.
only had one way or the other, you'd kinda get tired of it, but being able to
Yeah,
have
maybe.
creative freedom sometimes, but then other times just be able to execute, get it done and
Yeah.
move on is probably
Yeah,
good
yeah.
too.
Yeah. It's I guess at this point it's more about trying to understand what each artist wants. It's almost like
Yeah,
playing therapist or like interpreter for each specific artist, learning how they speak, what they say when they say they want certain things. An artist might say they want it to sound more blue, as artists do, and you have to figure out what that means, because what you might say as blue might mean something different than what Kelly might say. And
yeah.
that to
Yeah.
me feels more, maybe that's the art behind it at this point,
Mm,
is like just learning how
I
to communicate with people and figure out what they want.
I mean, from my perspective, I think a lot of it is interpreting what
Mm.
ramble we actually give to you and say, we wanted to sound this, it needs to sound wet. And you're like, hold on a minute, who's going
Sure.
to understand what we mean by we want this to sound wet? This is cinematic.
Yep.
And it's all these sort of weird pushing words that you sort of force upon, onto JJ and go, you can interpret this, can't you? And this is obviously why he's sort of working as a therapist while we're all having a mental breakdown in the background.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, because 'cause I'm sure a lot of music artists have, like, this very particular vision, but maybe it's hard for them to articulate
mm,
Mhm.
that to somebody else, and you're having to interpret that and make their vision come to life, through the sound, so, yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. How did you get started in the world of mixing? Like, what kinda led you to it?
Yeah. like specifically mixing, like how did I make that transition, or how did I get into like working in music?
Well, why don't you start with music and then how you focused on this
Okay.
aspect of music?
I really wish I could remember when and why I decided, oh, I want to work in music. I think it was somewhere around like sophomore year of high school. Like I had been in a like a competitive show choir. I'd been going to concerts for years. My dad was a drummer. Everyone in my family had to play some sort of instrument in the school band at one point. I had taught myself how to play guitar at this point, and I remember I was out at dinner with my dad and little brother, and he had asked me if I had given any thought to what I wanted to do after high school. And I said, it sounds cool to be in the studio with bands, where someone
Mm.
messes up a guitar solo and it makes the song way better. That sounded really romantic to me, but I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what the titles
Mm.
were. After I had graduated high school, it was like, in my family, it was you have to go to college. And
Mm.
I didn't want to go to college. I hated school. Like,
Mhm.
I just showed up. I would cheat on tests that I knew were different tests than the one I was taking, just because I didn't care. Like, it wasn't my thing. It was so dumb.
Yeah.
So I finished high school, and my mom was like, hey, here's a school in Florida that does audio engineering. And I was like, I'm not going to Florida. Well, here's a school in Nashville. I'm not going to Nashville. She did this like a couple times, and the
Mm.
deadline for signing up for the community college was like the following week or something. It might have been like a couple days away, and she came up to me right before I was about to leave for work and handed me a pamphlet. She's like, this school is in Phoenix. And I was like, Mom, I don't want to hear it. I'm signing up for community college. I don't want to be doing school anyway, and I have to go to work now. And she got up and she like threw the pamphlet away, all dramatic, and it made me feel so bad. So I went and I took the pamphlet out of the trash and I took it with me to work and looked up the school, and I filled out an application that night. The next morning they gave me a call. We did like a phone interview and then asked if I wanted to come tour the school. So I toured the school that afternoon. And then 2 weeks later, I started there. It's a school called the Conservatory of Recording Arts and Sciences, and it's in Tempe, Arizona, and Gilbert, Arizona. And you spend half the curriculum at one school and half at the other school. And when I went, it was a shorter program. I think they've added like 9 weeks or something, but it's still a very accelerated school.
Mm.
I started in August and I finished in March of the following year. And you kind of learn the basics of a lot of different avenues. You learn, studio, live sound, video game, movie, like post-production, TV and radio. So you learn all the basics of all these things, and then you have to go do a 3-month internship after. And
Mm.
I did my internship in Chicago at a studio called Groove Master, which was owned and operated by an engineer and producer named Johnny K. And he had done like Disturbed and um, Finger 11. While I was there, we were doing Alien Ant Farm and
Mm.
a bunch of stuff in that kind of, the alt harder rock, some
Mhm.
of the metal bands. And I spent 3 months there. They weren't hiring. They were just, kind of taking
Mm.
the work, the
Yeah.
intern work. And then I ran out of money. So I moved back home to Phoenix and just started recording friends, both as solo artists and then also like bands. In 2014, I quit my job. I was working at a coffee shop again. I quit the job and I rented this like industrial storage unit type thing. And I built a little 10-foot by 15-foot control room, and the rest of the room we put this really shitty wooden stage
I love
uh,
it.
and some speakers, and we had shows there. So I had that space for 4.5 years. I ended up living
Wow.
there for 2.5 of that time, and don't suggest living in a storage unit. It's not fun,
No,
especially in Phoenix with no air
definitely
conditioning.
not good. No.
But yeah, that time there was very important. I got to only focus on what I was doing,
Mm.
which was recording bands, and I got to sit with a drum. People would leave their instruments, so like I'd just have a bunch of drum kits laying around, and I'd set them up and press record in one room and run out and hit the snare drum and move the microphone an inch, hit the snare drum, see how things changed as I moved stuff around, and spent a lot of time developing my like engineering chops like that. And I went through a couple different iterations of studios while I was there, and I think it was 2019 when I recognized that I enjoyed mixing the most out of the process. Like I was getting the most from it. I'm really not great at writing music from scratch or writing music with someone. If they say, hey, we could put a piano here, I'm like, yeah, but one, I don't play piano, and two, how are you supposed to just make a piano thing? Like it makes no sense in my brain, but the other side of it does. And so I was being vocal with people I was working with or people I had just been introduced to that I was trying to only be mixing. And yeah, I ended up coming out here, and that's how I ended up specializing. And part of it was also I was tired of, you know, bands arguing in the room with me, you know, and or you know, I was working with metal bands. I was tired of being yelled at all the time. Like they're just sitting there screaming into the microphone. I'm like, man, I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
This is a lot.
We don't all scream.
I know. The ones I was working with did.
I feel like listening to you talk, JJ, you must, as a mixing engineer, you must have a really incredible ear. Because if I'm understanding your craft, you get all of these pieces and all of these sounds, and you're determining the best way to kind of put them all together to achieve the vision of the artist, but also, you know, to achieve a quality product in terms of a song. You must have a really good ear.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that people early on, you kind of think people are born with magic ears and whatnot, and it's just not true. It's just time. You know, it's spending a lot of time. At this point, I've done a couple thousand songs in my career, and if you had done a couple thousand songs, you would probably learn the same. You know, it's not like at this point, sure, I can walk in a room and like hear a buzzing on the refrigerator and probably tell you what frequency it is, but that's all learned. It's not like I was just born with this.
Do you
this
use
thing.
this at like parties, JJ? I feel like this is like a good parlor trick.
No.
It'd be like,
No,
just walk
God.
away from that guy. Just ignore
Yeah,
him.
I will not be that person that busts out. And you know, I actually I really don't even enjoy talking about mixing outside of you know, with other mixers or other audio people. Like it's just not an exciting conversation.
What?
in my
I'm
opinion.
fascinated.
Like
Am
sure,
I just a dork
explaining
though,
the
JJ?
job
I think I
is-
have said this on the podcast. I am a self-professed dork, so I don't know.
No,
I find what you do fascinating.
Like I'm not speaking in like this context. Like explaining it to someone is fascinating, you know, and it makes me take a second to step back and realize like, oh, you actually know a lot more than you think you do because you can explain it. But it's just not in like, I don't know, going and hanging out with friends. I'm not gonna say, oh, your air
It's like,
purifier
actually,
is
did
running
you
it, you know. No, that sucks.
Yeah, no, don't do that. No, you just don't talk shop with people, do you? You just don't do it.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can't test you, JJ. I can't just play random sounds right now.
No,
and you're gonna
I
tell
feel
me.
like I need to find
No.
something that's buzzing and just go, what frequency is this?
Yeah. I think my internet might be interrupted if you start doing that. We might drop the call.
I get impressed by
we're not going to
Kelly's
go
ear.
there.
Because when we do usually we do a deep dive into the music of the Rose, and she'll talk about the key and everything, and I just feel so proud of myself because now I'm learning, and I'm like, this is the key of D, isn't it, Kelly? She's like, good job, Anne. I'm like, yay!
Hell yeah. That's awesome.
My high school music teacher would be so proud.
Yeah. Shout out high school music teachers. That's an
right?
important job.
Well, we taught. Yeah, I think you kind of mentioned this a little bit in figuring out, you know, how to achieve that vision, or you hear from the artist. I imagine this to be blue sounding or sounding wet. Like, how do you approach the balance, I guess, of the technical side of mixing to like the artistic side?
Yeah, I think again it comes down to what they want. You know, is is there room for me to make an artistic choice, like adding like a vocal effect, like, you know, you hear an echo or you hear a big wash of reverb? Is there room for me to do that, or have they already given that to me? Because sometimes the producers will do that themselves, and there's really not space for me to make those decisions. So I guess it's really, what does the song and what does the production tell me to do? And also, do I know these people? Like, do I know the producer really well, and do I know that they're giving me room or leaving me room to do that or want me to do that? Or do I know, no, I know that they like it to just be a cleaner version of what they're doing, or a, you know, a marginally better version of what they're doing. And then to kind of talk about the rows with the Korean groups, a lot of the time they will have done, you know, they'll record the project and they'll have the producer come in and work on it, or they're producing it themselves. A lot of the roast stuff they did on their own. They will do their own like reference mix of it, but then they'll take everything off and send the session completely dry. So there's just like, everything is back to how it was when they were recorded it, or when they had recorded it, and they kind of want you to do your thing. And sometimes that is, I mean, it's, we always get there. It's an amazing time, but like sometimes it's tricky because they have done a specific delay throw, or they've done a specific effect to one part, and now you have to recreate it without having, because it's not there. So sometimes they'll have to reach back out and say, hey, so how did you guys end up doing this? Like, what did you use to do this? I want to recreate it. Or sometimes I can pick up on what it is and do it, or pick up on the idea and say, oh, we can go even further with it. So yeah, it really is just a balance of a lot of things, you know, knowing the people and what is the song telling you.
Yeah. I think that's so fascinating.
Okay, I can't even get my head around that. Honestly,
I know, I
I
feel
mean,
like, Kelly, you have something you wanna ask. You're just thinking.
I'm not.
Yeah.
No, I mean, literally, my brain was like, so hold on. They basically do a mix and then they give it you raw and go, do your worst.
Yes.
That would
Yes. And
frazzle my
it's,
brain. I couldn't cope with
yeah,
that.
it is. It was trippy the first like few times I'd worked with like a Korean artist, because I didn't understand that's what was happening. And then through talking
Yeah.
with other friends who do a lot of K-pop or K-rock, they say, oh yeah, no, that's how they do it. Like, they
Wow,
do
that's
their own mix of
mad.
it, and then they say, do your thing. But they're doing their own mix so they can, you know, pitch to labels or show
Yeah.
in private parties or whatever it is. They want a version that they can already show, and then they want it to go be mixed, and then they'll have this final product. Yeah, it was a trip the
Oh,
first
wow.
couple times. And then once you
Yeah.
recognize it, you know, again, you're like, okay,
Yeah,
this is my
you
job.
know
I
what's
understand.
happening,
I can
but
just go do the thing.
yeah, no, my brain couldn't cope with that. I'm sorry. I'd be just
Yeah.
like, what are you trying to do to me?
Yeah,
Hold on, let me
yeah.
get the crystal ball out.
Right.
No, I
Right.
just couldn't do it.
Do you
Oh,
usually get
God.
to know the artist, like, through virtual, like, Zoom calls, or do you just contact through email? I
It
guess, local
really,
artists you might meet in person. How do you kinda build that
yeah.
relationship with each artist?
Yeah, it all depends. I love knowing who I'm working with. I love hopping
Yeah.
on a phone call before we even decide if we're working together. I love to hop on some sort of phone call, or have them by the studio, or meet up for lunch or something, and just get to know each other as a person, because if we don't really mesh as people, I don't think we're going to do a good job here, you know? And there are times where it's just the nameless, faceless email. Hey, here's the song. We need it tomorrow. Okay,
Oh my
here we
gosh.
go. You know, sometimes that happens.
No.
And it seems the more you kind of work up, the less communication you have with the artist, because sometimes the
Mm.
artist isn't involved at all. Sometimes it's
Yeah.
just the producer and the
Oh,
manager.
wow.
Sometimes it's just people at the label, sometimes like the A&R. I love knowing who I'm working with, because I feel like I get a better picture of what is the vision for it. Where are we
Yeah.
going with this? But at the same time, the more that you're working up, the better picture they're painting by the time it gets to you. Like,
Mm.
Yeah,
there's a
that's
more
what I was.
clear vision.
Yeah, that's what I was
Mm.
just going to ask. Which is easier? Is it the artist, or is it when you're sort of dealing with the sort of ultimate level professionals? I know that sounds terrible, but like the business professional, not necessarily the
Yeah.
artist. But yeah, I mean that's yeah, I can see that. It's kind of strange, but yeah. So JJ and my wonderful bunch of merry men. I mean, ours has literally all been Zoom calls and
Yeah.
random emails in the middle of the night and things like that. Because obviously we have a bit of a distance between us
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
little bit of a time delay. But at some point we're going to get over and see him and drive him mad. And yeah,
Yeah.
so but I mean.
Yeah. Can't wait.
So I haven't actually. So I mean, we were sort of looking at mixing and mastering and everything else, and we'd got a plan of what we were doing, and that didn't come to fruition. And then one day I just said, "Look, sod it, just give me." I turned around to the guys and I went, "Just give me your favorite albums of the last couple of years."
Mm.
And weirdly enough, Mothica came up, who is one of JJ's clientele, and literally it was like, okay, I'm gonna message JJ. We're probably not gonna hear anything back. I know we probably won't. I just like going, we're not gonna hear anything. Come on, he done Mothica. He's not gonna be bothered about us. And
Oh
I
my
sent him
God.
just like, I just sent him some rough stuff, and I was just like, 5 minutes later, I got this email. It's like, hello, and I was like, oh my god! I literally had to sit down for 5 minutes. I was like, we've got a call. I was so excited, and then obviously,
Aw.
yeah, I know, no, but I mean, we were over the moon, and then when we sort of like sat working out like yeah, the rest of your discography, and it was just like, oh, okay, fair enough. And but I mean, we'd literally gone in because we love Mothica, and that's
Yeah.
kind of where we knew. Because yeah, I mean, with our music, there's a slight leaning towards that, but slightly heavier. But yeah,
Yeah.
so that's how we ended up knowing JJ. So
Yeah, Kelly was so excited, JJ. She shared with
Aw.
me, and like I'm so ignorant. I'm like, "Yay!" I'm like, "I don't know
she
who
Yeah.
this
was
is,
just
but
she
that
was
sounds
just
Excited
tapping
because
along
your
awesome."
the
friend's
fingers.
excited.
Yay, that's great, Kelly. And I was just like, you don't understand how big this is.
Aw.
I know, she was so
That's so sweet.
excited. Yeah, yeah.
Well, no, and it's been a lot of fun. We hopped on that first call and like instantly we all kind of clicked on it. It was like, yeah, we
Mm.
get
Yeah,
we get what we're going for here, and we all have a
yeah,
similar sense of humor, and like this is just going to be a fun time.
Yeah, I think as you said, like I can see that connecting with that artist is an important part of your work, and so it's
Mm.
so great that you've connected with Kelly and her bandmates,
Yeah.
and can't wait to hear the final product when that comes out. How do you decide what elements to prioritize when you mix? You've talked about you've got things like vocals and instruments, but then you also have, as you were noting, like ways that you can affect these sounds that you
Mm.
can add in. So how do you prioritize each of those elements?
I hate to like continue to say it just depends on the song, but like it
Sure.
it really does, some songs and some artists. So in pop it's usually the vocal kind of sits on top of the mix. It's a
Mm,
little louder than everything else. With rock, usually it sits more back into the track. I love drums. I love like rhythmic things. So I feel like I tend to prioritize drums
mm,
and like bass low end type things uh, just by default.
mhm,
And there are times when I'll be working on a song and I'm kind of grooving to it and I'm excited and I'm like, this song doesn't actually need the drums this loud, so maybe I need to scale this back a little bit and go from there. And really, the first version of the song is I'm putting things where like my taste would put them.
mm,
Uh, or what I've gotten from the thing. That's what I feel. Beyond that, everything else is up to the artist.
mm,
Like if I got something wrong, you tell me and I'll move it. I'll put it back. I'll do whatever because I already gave you what I thought the balances should be
mhm,
and etc. And sometimes if it's a brand new person to me, I will be a little more cautious with it. I won't stray too far from what they've sent me. And then through revisions, we can kind of be pushed from there. We can kind of stray further. Oh, okay, you actually wanted this thing here. But in the past, I had done oh, well, I'm just going to do me every single time. And sometimes I went way too far with certain things and had songs pulled from me. So I found that doing it this way seems
Oh,
a
yeah.
little easier for everyone. You know, this is
Yeah.
someone that's brand new. I'm not trying to like bastardize your song. You know, we're on the same team,
Right,
so I'm
right,
trying to give
right.
you what I think you're
Yeah.
going for. But a lot of it through growth, you know, when I was taking it too far, that wasn't me mixing for the song, that was me mixing for me. So
Mm.
now,
Mm.
this has gotten so off topic of the question, but I'm gonna finish it anyway. Um, a lot of it now is it really just comes down to I want to serve the song, I want to
Yeah.
serve the artist, and that again comes down to like, what have you given me here?
Yeah.
Did you send me something that like the acoustic guitar is really loud, or it's louder than other things? That tells me I should prioritize this acoustic guitar.
Mm.
If for some reason I really feel like it shouldn't be there, maybe I'll try a version that way. But usually I'm going to kind of respect the balances of what they sent me.
Mhm.
I'm working with producers who know what they're doing at this point. I'm very grateful to be in that position where the people I'm working with are really, really good. I don't need to kind of go off the rails with it anymore.
Yeah.
When I was working on my own stuff, you know, just starting, sure, because I was still learning and I wasn't doing things like I wasn't mixing as I went. I kind of left it all in separate stages, but producers now are doing mixing along the way and then sending that. They're kind of telling me exactly where they want things. And every once in a while, you can get away with like, oh, there's this really cool background synth or guitar. Maybe we could bring that up a little. And sometimes they say, oh, I didn't actually know that was in the song. That's really cool.
Oh,
I like
wow.
that there. Or
Yeah.
they say, you know what? Let's just delete it, or let's bury it
Yeah.
again, like put it back. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
I
Did that
think
answer
that
the question?
no, absolutely, and it just gets me thinking about, like, all the different genres you might work within. I
Mm,
was really interested in what you were saying of just, like, if it's pop, the vocals tend to be more forward, if it's
mm.
rock, maybe that instrumentation's more forward. Are you finding that you still do a variety of genres, or are you kind of in a niche genre now?
No, no, no. I never wanted to only specialize in one thing.
Mm,
When I was starting out, coming up, still figuring things out, I was working with metal bands because that's what I had access to. But I loved pop music. I wanted to be doing pop music. There just wasn't any in Phoenix at the
mm.
time. So it wasn't until I moved here that I started doing a lot of that. And when I was doing a lot of that, the metal bands there, I just didn't know anyone out here that was doing that. Also, I moved out here 3 weeks before COVID hit, so I didn't have time
Oh
to
my
really meet
gosh.
any of those bands because that genre, like you meet them by going to the shows. You're not just hitting them up
Mm,
on Instagram or grabbing lunch or something. But as time has kind of progressed here, I mean, just this week alone, I've done like an EDM project. I'm like looking here right now, a country project, a couple pop songs. There might be a rock song in there, but like it's all over the place, and that's how I want to
mm.
keep it. I don't
Yeah.
want to just be working in one thing. I think it would get monotonous, and
Yeah.
it's also fun for a perspective change. You know, if you're in one song and you're just kind of you've lost that perspective, you can hop to a completely different genre and then have to do something else, you know, where maybe you prioritize something else. Like if I'm working on an acoustic song versus an EDM song, you're prioritizing different instruments, and
Mm.
maybe that kind of helps you when you switch back to the other thing.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love
I
that.
would
I
go
find
ahead.
that though when you're a musician as well. So I mean, when you get to that point where you're working on something and you hit that wall, you're just like, let's just leave this. We need to park it, and then you need
Mm,
just that little sway onto something else, and then because you've cleared your head, you can then go back to what you were working on, and it's like, okay, it now makes sense. But
yeah,
sometimes you just need that change, that clarity, don't you, just to be able to sort of reset your actual thinking.
totally, totally. And sometimes you don't have that luxury. You know, sometimes you have to
Yeah.
just work through it. I work quickly, and because of that, I get
Mm.
hit up for a lot of really last minute things. You know,
Mm.
I have a couple artists in my phone that are the only people that go through, like push through on my do not disturb, because I know if they're texting me, they're going to need something within the next 2 to 4 hours times. And I love it. You know, I love I love rush of things. Not
Mm,
every day, but it's also a completely different way of working because we can't
mm,
just sit and obsess over little things.
mm,
You're going off of feeling. You're going off of, does anything take me away from enjoying this song?
mm,
And if it does, then we need to change it. If not, great, let's go, let's submit it. Where sometimes if you have, 6 months to finish a song, you go through all these little things that might not really be changing the song, and maybe they do. It's not
mhm.
really for me to say. We're doing it until the artist is happy,
Yeah.
but it leaves room for this kind of self-doubt and
Yeah.
like scrutiny on your own stuff that leaves you kind of second guessing things. When do they matter? Like, is anyone going to notice
Yeah.
this? I don't know.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting perspective, JJ. When we had our artist spotlight interview with the music artist Francis Doom, we kind of asked him
Mhm.
about his own music, and he's all self-produced and he just puts
Yeah,
out his
cool.
own music. He's an indie artist. About like, does he listen to his songs, right? Like what relationship he has with
Yeah.
the songs. And he's a very self-critical person, so he doesn't really like to
Yeah.
listen to his songs because he's always thinking of all the things he could have done better.
Right, right.
But I wonder for you, it's not your song, so you're not the artist, but you've obviously had a hand in
Mhm.
creating the ultimate sound by mixing these sounds together. Do you listen to the songs that you work on afterwards, or are you just kinda like, "I never hear that song again?"
Yeah, sometimes there's a few songs that I have on like playlists of mine that just
Mhm.
really, for whatever reason, whatever I was going through at the time when I worked on it, just meant a lot to me. And those
Mm.
songs I will listen to. I'm certainly not, I think for a long time and until you're comfortable with what you're doing, uh, you do get in that phase of maybe, but I could have done this better. And I
Mm.
guess maybe now I kind of look at it the same way I look at like tattoos. I have a ton of tattoos, a lot that are really bad and a lot that are really great, like, but I would never want to change any of them because that was such a marker of where I was at that
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
I don't have any that are just like absolutely miserable. Um, but I can look at it and say, but that reminds me of this. And I'm just a very nostalgic person. So I feel like now when I look back at songs, I enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah.
And I don't know that I'm not listening to it to be like, I wish I would have changed this. I wish I would have done this better. Or like, no, that's what you felt was right at the time. It's where
Mhm.
your skills were at the time. It's where that, and ultimately it got approved. So it doesn't
Yeah,
even
right,
matter if I would
right.
change it. So why would I lose sleep over something that like
Yeah.
Yeah,
everyone was happy at that time? And next time around,
yeah,
maybe we can do better. Hopefully we do better. That's the goal, is to always be outdoing
yeah.
yourself. But it's yeah, I don't mind listening to stuff. I don't necessarily go out of my way to listen to the stuff that I work on,
Mhm.
but if there's a song I really liked, then hell yeah, I'm going to put that on repeat.
What are you most proud of? What song are you most proud of?
That's really tough. There's a lot of songs for a lot of different reasons. I'm really proud of the last Hollywood Undead song, Hollywood Forever.
Mm,
That song, it was with a one of my best friends. His name's Sako. He's the one that produced it with Jarris Johnson, and I love those dudes. I talk to Sako daily, and like getting to work on a song with them is always fun. And that band meant a lot to my cousin Tony, who passed away a
mm.
year and a half ago from a drug overdose. And
Oh,
the
wow.
song
Bless.
was like, or the song is a thank you to fans for sticking
Mm,
around. It's this like huge, we need you just as much as you've needed our music,
mhm.
or
That's
it's a
gorgeous.
symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
And oh
Yeah.
my god, working on that song, I think I got halfway through like the third verse and I was just like covered in goosebumps, started crying. I was like,
Oh,
oh, I'm like actually,
wow.
because I worked on it maybe 3 months after he had passed away,
Oh,
and I
wow.
don't know that I'd really mourned that relationship, or
Yeah.
Yeah.
that ending. And that song was happening at the same time as another song I was working on that is not a rock song. It's like an indie pop song that was having to do with a friend of hers that had passed away from suicide, and her
Mm,
having to process that. And like working on those two songs at once, I'm
Wow.
getting goosebumps now thinking about it. It
Yeah.
was a lot for me because I was also having to mourn something I didn't realize that I was holding
Wow.
in. Um, and that song is called The End by an artist named Grace Greenan. So both of those songs I love so much. I listen to them. Those are on the playlist that I'll listen to stuff.
Aw,
But
well,
there's
listeners,
so much stuff.
we are definitely gonna link those songs in this episode,
Oh,
JJ,
yeah.
so that our
Yeah.
listeners can stream those songs and
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
There's so
amazing.
much to be proud of with all of these
Mm,
artists. So like they're
yeah,
all incredible. They're all working so hard. And
yeah,
sometimes certain messages land with, I mean, that's the beauty of music, right? Like some songs
Mm.
mean something to you that might mean something different to me, and it might not resonate with me, but it resonates with you, and that's beautiful.
I love
Um,
that about music. Kelly and I have talked about that in the podcast. I think just that's one of the reasons why I love music so much.
and something again like the Rose, like that, I had no idea who they were when I got asked to do that
Yeah, so
record.
tell us that
I
story. Tell us how that came about.
Yeah, there's a producer named Jason Mader who, when I moved here, he and I shared his studio with him for the first maybe 8 months I was out here. And we've done so much work together. I love Jason. He actually just had twins a couple weeks ago, or his wife
Oh,
had twins. This is their first kids, twin boys. It's
Oh my
gonna be
gosh, bless
chaotic
them
too.
both.
Yeah,
that is gonna
yeah,
be
right.
mad. Oh wow.
But Jason is so talented, and he had given me a call. Hey, I'm working with this band. I want you to do the song. Did the song. Didn't think anything of it. Maybe a week later, they hit me up directly and they said, hey, we have another song. A week after that, hey, we have another song. A week after that, we have another song. And they were all very, hey, we need this now. And we're on a
What a
huge time
shock.
difference. So a lot of times I'd get a text at 9 or 10 at night, hey, we need this within the next like 4 to 6 hours.
Oh
So I'd have to go
shit.
back to the studio and work till 3 a.m. And then I would get to go home because by the time I finished, they were in sessions for the day, so they couldn't listen
Yeah.
to it. So
Mm.
I'd go home for like 4 hours, sleep until 7, and then go back to the studio to do notes so that by, noon hour or my time, before right around when they were going to bed, we had finished the song. And I did maybe half the record, maybe
You
a
did
little less or a
5
little more.
songs out of
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
11
you did, yeah.
tracks.
Yeah, there
You
you go.
did
So
You're Beautiful, Lifeline,
yep, yep,
Eclipse, Alive, and Wonder, which are all
yeah.
incredible tracks, JJ.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I mean, hats off to them. They made the songs and the producers. They did a great
Yeah.
job, and they knew what they wanted. Like they gave me the reference mix. They told me where they wanted things to change from the reference
Mm.
mix. Like they were very hands on. They knew what they were after, and we got it there. And I'm grateful to have worked with it. But yeah, I had no
Mm.
idea. And then their manager had reached out to Jason and I and said, "Do you guys want to come to their show?" And it was at the Kia Forum
Oh,
Yeah.
in
great.
Inglewood, and I had just been at the Forum 2 months prior to see Paramore, which was incredible, right? Like,
Love
oh my God,
Paramore.
what a
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. There's no words. There's no words.
No,
That
no,
was
it's
one of
Paramore.
the
Come
best shows
on.
I've ever been to, and I was like, I've never heard of the Rose. How are they playing the Forum? And we showed up, and it was completely sold out. Like
Yeah.
Yeah.
getting to sit, they were very wonderful to us. We got to sit in like the 10th or 11th row or something, and seeing a stadium or an arena,
Mhm.
Yeah.
sing the lyrics to songs that you've worked on. That was unlike anything I'd
Oh,
experienced at that point. That was
yeah.
incredible. How hearing
Yeah.
them sing, You're Beautiful or Wonder or like any of the songs,
Yeah.
and just kind of sitting and like, what the hell is
That's
going
What
on
is
right now? This is
happening?
incredible.
crazy. The record just came out.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and I was sat next to this woman and her daughter, and I was just kind of like chatting with them, like how I had no idea what was about to happen. And this is a huge show. And she's like, oh my God, yeah, we love it. And all the fans, like they have diehard fans. And they gave me
Yeah.
the whole story of, well, they had to stop for a little bit because some of them went into the army, and
Yeah.
gave me the whole rundown. And they were so excited. And the whole time they're just having the night of their lives. They'd driven down from San Francisco, and I think they had seen them in San Francisco and then came
Yeah.
down to watch here. And it was just like, this is so incredible to
Yeah.
see. And
Well,
like,
You're
what a
Beautiful is one of my favorite songs out of all their
good
discography.
song.
It's a great song. And then Eclipse, I feel like Eclipse is like an underrated song of
Oh,
theirs.
completely underrated. I love that track.
That
Yep.
track is incredible. Incredible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it really is. You're Beautiful, I think. So Alive was the first one I did.
Mm.
You're Beautiful was the second. And then what was the last one I did? Was
Lifeline or Wonder or
I
Eclipse?
think it was Wonder was the final song I did. But yeah, I don't remember. But yeah, You're Beautiful, when I got that, and it was so starkly different from Alive.
Yeah.
Right.
That I was
Yeah.
like, oh, okay, we're doing a little switch up here. This is kind of the more like ballady
Yeah.
type thing, but
Right.
it worked so well.
Yeah.
And so I was like, wow, this is a
Yeah.
really cool
They
project.
do seem to be able to switch up styles quite easily, but still maintain their own sound, which is
Yeah.
annoying as hell. Because if I tried doing
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
it'd like out the window.
Yeah, they're all so talented.
Yeah.
It's
It's
annoying.
really annoying.
It's really annoying.
It's really annoying.
It is annoying. Well, JJ, we hope that maybe you'll come back on the podcast when we do our deep dive into Dual album, and we'd love to hear more of your perspective on each of these songs, because we go into each
Sure.
song and we talk about instrumentation and sound
Wild,
and
okay.
all of that. That would be fun to have you back.
She makes me use
Yeah.
my brain. It's not
Yeah.
fair. She asks me, she's
Well,
like, "You're a musician. What's this stuff?" I'm like, "I don't know."
Oh my God. Yeah, well, you won't have to use your brain if I can just pull up the session and look at what's
There
there.
you go. She's like, "There you go."
There we go.
It's all the notes.
Yeah.
I come in as the amateur. I'm like, I go off of feeling, JJ. I always say, this
Yeah.
song makes me feel like this, because I don't know all of the intricate pieces. But
that's the best. That's how
That's
how
yeah.
I listen to music. It's how I want to
Mhm.
interact with music. And it's actually how I tell artists who, like, when we get to notes, revisions, whatever, I always tell, like, some of them get so hesitant because they say, I don't know the correct way to say this. I don't know the terms. I don't know this. And I tell them I don't care, because I don't actually want that. I want you to tell me how this is feeling to you. What do you feel like? Do you feel like the vocal is hard to understand? Do you feel like something is overpowering? Is this supposed to be, what is it supposed to feel? And that is easier for me to interpret and kind of go off of than if you just said, add 3 dB of 10K. Like, why do you want that? Is it that we need the vocals brighter? Is it the cymbals? What about that is the move? And some people can give those notes and they're exactly right. They say 10 dB or 3 dB and 10K on the vocal, and it's like, yeah, cool. That was exactly it. But most of the time, it's maybe uninformed. That might be rude to say, but I would rather somebody tell me what they're feeling and why they're feeling that way, or I can interpret the why and then go from there. So don't lose that. Don't think you need to learn how to do anything else. Enjoy it as a fan. Enjoy it as a fan.
Yeah.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I mean, the last track that we've been working on, and I mean, I got the first sort of mix back, and I messaged JJ, and I was like, I've literally had a tear in my eye listening to that. It was like the most emo response ever.
Yeah.
But it was. I mean, I generally had goosebumps listening to it, and I was just like, oh shit, this is real. And then second thought of, oh, actually, crap, this is us. What's happening?
Oh, that must have felt so good, Kelly.
Yeah.
I can't wait till your music comes out.
Yeah.
We'll have to have you as a guest, Kelly, on the podcast. We'll interview you.
Oh, switch it up.
Don't interview me. Like, I don't know anything. I'll have to defer you to one of the other members.
Yeah.
So, JJ, I'm kind of interested to hear your thoughts about how do you think the way people listen to music now, I mean, particularly streaming, right? People are listening to their music more through streaming sites than maybe listening to it on vinyl or listening to it on a CD. People are listening to it more probably through their earbuds, their headphones, maybe
Mhm.
than listening to it, playing in their room through their record player or CD player. How has that impacted your approach to mixing, if it has?
It really hasn't, because the job
Mm,
is to make it translate across all playback systems,
mm,
you know? I know for a while there, 10, 20 years ago, they talked about how you needed to do a separate mix for vinyl and you needed to do these things, but it's just not something that is necessary anymore. And
mm,
quite frankly, a lot of the things that we're doing, a lot of the techniques that are happening with how loud things are getting, if you were undoing that for a specific medium, it wouldn't sound like the version that everyone approved. So
mm,
the job is to make it translate, like, on my speakers, on headphones, on your car, on vinyl, through a sound bar. The sound bar is a huge thing now. I think really the biggest thing that's kind of changed how people consume music is the whole spatial audio Atmos thing, with
Mm.
Apple really pushing that. And
Tell me what you
I
mean
don't
by that. I'm sorry, as
yeah, no,
a
so
novice.
so
Yeah.
Atmos is like a new surround
Oh,
playback system.
okay.
So, like, you go to
Okay.
a movie theater and there's, like, the Dolby Atmos theater, and
Mm,
it's just more speakers, and
mm,
it's cool because you can place things so specifically. You can have something
mm,
start from, like, this speaker back here and come up over your head and then land in front of you, or you can spin it around the whole room. You can do these things, but a lot of the really creative things to it don't make sense in, like, a music sense.
mm.
People don't want to be disoriented by what
Right.
they're listening to. And ultimately, like, Atmos is still very new in the grand scheme of things. It's only been like mandatory deliverable for the last 3-4 years maybe,
Mm,
and it's seeming more and more that people just want it to sound like the stereo version that everyone else is used to. So it might feel like there's a little more space in the headphones, but no one's I mean, it's a separate mix, but it's not a separate, like, it's not supposed to sound different.
mhm,
Yeah.
So that's really been the only thing. Not even everyone, it's not mandatory. I mean, for labels, it's a mandatory thing now, but like most indie artists aren't putting out an Atmos mix because most
mm,
people don't want to listen to the Atmos thing. There's still discrepancies between what Apple's putting out, or what Tidal gets, or what Amazon gets, or what goes to theaters for things, that it just makes it, like, as an audience member, it's just difficult to even enjoy.
mm,
And unless you're in, like, I think the AirPod Pros or the AirPod Max or something that can have, like, has Atmos capability, you're not really getting the picture anyway.
mm.
It just sounds like a weird, like, the songs in
Yeah.
a room. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not changed anything how I approach the work. It's not changed how I would do a stereo mix. And then if I have to do an Atmos mix, like, I have a song I'll have to do an Atmos mix for tomorrow, I can either rent a studio and go there that has more speakers, because
Mm.
I'm not getting enough Atmos work to make it
To warrant
necessary for
it.
me
Yeah,
to
Yeah.
exactly.
spend,
Yeah.
10 grand on speakers.
Yeah.
It's not worth it for me. So yeah, I'll just go to another room that has it and rent it for an hour, and do the mix there and send it off. But
Yeah, that makes
yeah,
sense.
it's not changing how I'm approaching the regular work, and the different formats doesn't really change anything. People are listening on their phone. They've been listening on their phone for years now. Maybe along the way, I was more conscious of it, but
Yeah.
Mm.
it's not something I've been really conscious of for quite a few years now, I
Yeah.
suppose.
Do you notice any, like, common trends in mixing that are kind of popular right now in the music industry?
That might also be kind of the tail end of the thing. Like, maybe
Yeah.
subconsciously I'm aware of what's going on. I consume music all the time, not just stuff that I'm working on, but I
Mm.
love listening to music. And maybe I'm picking up on things that are like, oh, there's more low end over the last decade or something like that. But it's not something that I'm consciously trying to figure
Mm,
out. Because I think that also comes with developing what your taste is, you know, like you're
mm,
not trying to follow what this other person is doing. You're kind of trusting yourself, the artist, the team,
yeah,
to just make what works for this song. We're
yeah,
not trying to make it fit into this whatever
Yeah.
this is. And maybe sometimes it is. Maybe it is just we want the straight up pop thing, you know, it's bright,
mm,
there's a lot of low end, the vocals out front. But yeah, I don't know that there's like a current trend that I could think of on the mixing side, at least. You know, over the last 5-ish years, we've gotten a lot more back on the production side to adding live instruments. You know, it's been a lot
mm,
more drum kits or a lot more
mm.
guitars, and that's been cool.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
cool.
not something that that has been a theme in mixing. Also, I grew up working on like live instruments, so that
Right.
wasn't
Yeah.
a weird shift for me. It was weirder when I went to programmed instruments,
Yeah.
um, but that was 5 or 6 years ago. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh my
not
gosh,
anything
when
I'm
you
thinking about
listen,
now.
just like as a fan, like you're just like listening to music, do you find yourself picking out sounds and like wearing your mixer hat? Or can you just listen to a song and you don't even get
Yeah,
in work mode?
it took a long time to unlearn that. And it was
Yeah.
very frustrating because I would, you know, when I was still figuring things out, you know, 7, 8 years ago, it was, I would spend the whole day at the studio working on songs. You'd get in the car, you'd do the car test, you'd listen to it there, and then you'd immediately put on your favorite song or like something that just came out. And I would get so bummed out. It would ruin my mood for the rest of the night because I'm like, fuck, why am I not getting it to hit like this? Like, how are they
Yeah.
making the kick hit like this? How are they
Yeah.
getting the guitars to sit like this? And as time went on and I was able to figure those things out for myself, I was also able to untrain, like,
Mm.
why are we doing this? Because you enjoy music. Why are you also
Yeah.
making listening to it a job? Like, just listen to it as a
Right.
fan. It doesn't matter if you think the mix is great or bad because everyone approved it. Like
Right.
we said
Yeah.
earlier,
Right,
it's
right,
like it
right.
Exactly.
doesn't
Yeah.
even matter what my opinion is. Does the song resonate with me? How does it feel to me? And
Yeah.
that has been a very learned thing, to
I
just
could
go off
see
feeling and
that.
enjoy things for what they are.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I
It's
really
removing
try
yourself.
not to.
Yeah, it's removing yourself from that technical, isn't it? And then just appreciating it on an emotional level. So yeah, I completely get that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's
It's
not to
even
say that I don't have days where I'm like, "Damn, that sounds really
Damn, why
good.
did
How
I
the
not
fuck
do
did they?"
that? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. How did they get that? How did they do that? Like, there are times where I do that, and I can switch it on at any point. I just really try not to. I just want to
Yeah.
enjoy music.
Yeah, I definitely could see that. I guess as you've been talking, I was like, wow, I could see that it'd be maybe hard to kind of switch yourself off. But I'm glad that you figured that out because, you know, as you said, you got into this through your passion and your love of music. And I think, as a I'm not a musician, as I always say, but in talking with Kelly and then in talking now with multiple people who are in
Mhm.
the music industry. I think it'd be easy in your industry to lose your passion. And I just think it's such a shame if that happens or when that
Yeah.
happens to, professionals in the industry to lose that passion because it's usually a deep passion. And so I'm glad that you found that balance to keep your
Yeah.
passion for music.
Yeah, it's again, it all kind of happens in waves. You go through cycles where it feels like work,
Yeah.
but you're trying to love every song and you're trying to treat it like, again, you trying to refine the passion of why you got into it in the first place. And
Yeah.
I try and check in regularly with myself, you know, hey,
Yeah.
we're not living in the storage unit anymore. we
Yeah.
we have AC.
We
Thank
have a good
God.
existence.
Yeah, yeah. So you know, it is one of those things. I'm not nearly where I want to be in the grand scheme of the career, but I do need to take a step back and enjoy where I've been able to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're
Yeah.
obviously very accomplished, JJ. And so,
Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad that you're taking that opportunity to, take that step back. Why don't we kind of start to wrap up and maybe if you can tell us a fun story. And I know you have to be careful. We don't want you to spill the
Yeah.
beans and say
Yeah.
anything about an
Be
artist
careful.
that you will get you in trouble or us in
Yeah,
trouble. We don't
yeah,
want to get
yeah,
off the
yeah.
air.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you have a fun story of an artist that you worked with? No
Sure.
names. You don't have to name
Well,
anybody.
I'll give a name. I'll give a name because she and her band deserve all of the credit. And it's not fun like a just funny. It's just the whole experience was fun.
Oh,
There's an artist
great.
named Kelsey Carter, and she and her band are Kelsey Carter and the Heroines, and they're like an 80s rock inspired band, big anthemic songs. The first song is like 5.5 minutes and has a drum solo. Like
Oh,
it's
wow.
fucking
Oh,
awesome.
like,
And
Anne, seriously amazing. You need to listen to them. So
Oh,
good.
wow.
yeah, yeah,
Seriously good.
incredible. And I had heard Kelsey's music in 2020, and then in 2021 is when I had met Sako, the producer I mentioned earlier.
Mhm.
And the first time I had gone over to his studio, he was playing me. They had just had a writing session for the first song, and I was like, "This is incredible! Like, whatever this is, like, keep me updated. This is so cool." And they spent 3.5 years making this record, like just on
Wow.
the writing production side of things. And throughout that process, um, Sako had brought me in to engineer live drums. I love engineering live drums. Uh, it's one of my favorite things to do, and he knew this. And so when they needed drums for some of the songs, he would bring me in, and we'd do that. And so that was when I got to meet Kelsey and the band, and everyone was just so incredible. Like they're just so fun, and they're funny as shit. And it was just easy. Like everyone was having a good time. We were all on the same page. And eventually, when it came time to start mixing the singles, there would be times where Sako would call me and say, "Hey, I'm too close to this. We've been working on this song for 2.5 years now. It's time for me to mix it. Do you want to do it with me?" And we'd co-mix it together. And that was super fun. And when it came time to do the rest of the record, I think this was last July-ish. Sako and I just spent like 5 days straight together, and we did, it was like 13 songs or something. And
Wow.
that was just a fun experience because I get to be in the studio with one of my best friends, and we
Yeah.
just get to make this record that everyone cared so much about, and the music is so fucking cool. And then the following week, we went and attended the mastering session with a mastering engineer named Mike Bosey,
Mm.
and he's in Hollywood, and I'd never met Mike in person, but he works out of a studio called Bernie Grunman, and that building and all of the mastering engineers in it are just so iconic. They've been around for, decades, longer than that, and it was so cool to just be in that building and then
Mm.
getting to sit in a room that I had seen, interviews of Mike in, or,
Oh,
watch
wow.
Mike do breakdowns of songs he'd worked on, and just getting to sit and talk with him just as a person was so much fun. I think it took us maybe 2 hours to master the record, but we were there for 6.5. Like we just had such a good time. It was me, Sako, and Kelsey, and then getting to see those songs live and
Mm.
getting to see the whole rollout of the record. And a couple of the songs we'd used my dad's drum kit to record
What?
on. And for some
Wow.
reason I didn't think to bring that up to my dad, but my dad was a huge, he played in rock bands growing up, and I had sent him some of the songs, and so he was a fan, so he started following, what the band was up to when they were going on tour and all this stuff. And when the record came out, Sako was like, "Well, did you tell him that some of these songs have his drum kit on it?" I was like, "No, why didn't I think to do that?" And I
Oh,
called him, and it was this really like, it was a beautiful moment between me and him where he kind of like,
yeah.
he was so it was like he was getting to live out the rock star dream
Oh, wow.
vicariously through this. And they ended up playing in Kelsey and the band played in Phoenix, and she was so kind and put my dad on the guest list and spent
That's
some time talking to him and my
amazing.
stepmom after the show. And he called me just so excited. He's like, man, that was the coolest thing. And
That's amazing.
yeah, so it's just, there's lots of stories about lots of artists, but that one, like, just from start to finish,
Right.
they are so incredible and they deserve every bit of recognition for that.
Yeah.
And shout out Whitney, who's their photographer who travels with them. She helped liaison the meeting of my parents and
Oh,
Kels,
that's
and
great.
she's also so talented. We end up working on a lot of I'll work on the song and then she shoots the cover art for it. Like, it just
So cool.
randomly happened that way.
Yeah.
But shout out their whole camp because they are just
Oh.
all the best people.
Well, we'll promote
They
them
sound
too for
amazing.
this episode
Yeah.
for sure. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, Kelly, do you have anything else you want to ask before we wrap up with our humor? We
No,
always do a
I'm
humor segment, JJ. So we're gonna have something fun
yeah, I
at the end.
apologize about this. And normally she just gives me something really evil and she'll ask me these things and puts me on the spot and I don't know what any of these things are. So JJ, it's now your go. Good luck.
Great. Okay.
My humor segment, which I don't know. I think I'm the only one that thinks I'm funny, JJ. So I don't think
Yeah,
anyone else thinks
it's
I'm
true.
funny.
This is true. I think
God,
it's evil.
God.
She thinks it's funny.
Okay.
All right. Well, any other questions, Kelly, or we'll go into our little humor segment?
You can go straight into that.
Okay, so hopefully with this, JJ, I mean, did you get a chance to get to know the members of the roast?
Not very well. I mean, I texted with them, but it was all very quick.
Okay, well, you're gonna have to go off of your gut instinct on this. If you're stranded on a desert island and you can only have one of those guys with you to help you escape, who would you choose?
You are evil.
I don't know. I mean, I think the one I communicated the most was Wusong, so maybe him. I don't.
That should probably be the answer. Not him, then. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh,
you ain't
God.
surviving, JJ.
I don't know. I have no idea which one I would choose.
Do you know what? I don't. Honestly, I mean, I'm glad you've not asked me this, to be honest.
Feel like I'm going with Jaehyun because he seems very logical. He never gets super emotional. He's in the gym all the time, so he's obviously very strong. He could help get us off that island.
She's going with the bass player. This is it. It's like, we'll go with the bass. I mean, that bass players are always the unsung hero of every band anyway.
Yeah.
So there you go. Yeah. Yeah, I think so too.
Figure out
Yeah,
how to get us off that
I
island.
don't know the guys well enough to...
Yeah, it's like, well, I'll just go with Sammy because I spoke to Sammy. It's like
so funny.
Oh,
God.
You're a good sport, JJ. I promise if you come back on the pod, I won't put you on the spot again. We'll just talk about the music.
I mean, I don't mind. I don't mind at all. I just
She'll just put me on the spot next time because this is what she always does because she's evil. Why did I agree to do this?
I know. I am evil.
Oh my God.
Well, listeners, I'll put that out on our Instagram account. We'll see what our listeners think of who they would trust from the Rose helping them get off the desert island.
Perfect. Yeah.
I bet it's not Sammy though. I feel like he's the bottom of my list. Trust him.
I'm sorry. I'm not laughing.
I
think you've got more chance. I think you've got more chance of surviving with Tom Hanks' basketball. What was the name of the basketball? I can't remember.
Wilson, the volleyball.
Wilson. Yeah.
Well, to be fair, that's what I would choose.
There you go. He's choosing Wilson. All right. Well, JJ, thank you again. We really appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to come on our podcast and tell our listeners just about all the magic that happens behind the scenes. Thank you so much. We hope you come back.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I would love to be back. So you guys say the word.
All right.
Thank
Thanks,
you
everybody.
so much, JJ. Speak to you soon.
You're very welcome. I'll talk to you
Bye-bye.
guys soon. Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, that wraps up our interview with JJ Catalyst. Listeners, you know the deal. Hit us up on social media. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. Leave us comments. We love your feedback. You can follow us if you don't already on social media on Instagram, X, and TikTok. It's KRock_cast all across the board.
Click here to subscribe.
Email us at krock.cast@gmail.com. We love your emails, so please keep them coming. They bring us such joy. And then we do have a new website, so we want to plug that. That is www.krockcast.com. We do have all of our English translations of the Roses songs, so definitely check out our website for that content. All right, everybody, we'll see you next time with our special episode, part 2 of the Into the Garage Files, where we are going to dig into the photosynthesis episodes 3 and 4. See you there. Bye-bye.
Bye.